Hi everyone, my name is Charlie, and I'd like to say that wearing a hat and a hood is a comment on the recent hike in energy prices, meaning that I'm not putting the heating on. And whilst it's true that I'm not putting the heating on because I am the person who pays the bill, that is not why I have a hat on. I have the hat on underneath this hood because I have not been washing my hair recently, and I've just been adding more and more hairspray. So it's had about 3 or 4 loads of hairspray packed into it recently, and it's now reached a stage where it doesn't even feel like hair anymore. It doesn't even feel like straw. It feels like the rough coat of some sort of dog that's been rolling around in mud. I do not recommend. However, it does mean that I'm planning a bath today, so those are always fun things, and that's something interesting for you to think about. Anyway, it's Wednesday, the something of November. The 16th? The 17th? I don't know. You're where I would look for. Well, it's 14th. It's the 16th. It's the 16th of November, if that means anything to you. It certainly doesn't mean anything to me, apart from the fact that it's another date on the calendar. I believe that there are 39 days left until Christmas, and I'm only counting down because I'm thinking about all of the Christmas stock at the charity shop. And it has been a long time since I recorded one of these videos. Indeed, this one might not even work. It has been a fortnight since I tried recording one of these videos in this same position, talking about the abundance of my father's mints in the background. He always has them, he's grown addicted. And when I tried to record that video, it kept cutting out, and I kept losing so much of the footage that...
A few moments later.
See, this is why I'm beginning to think that the universe is trying to tell me something about Woolgathering videos. Because that video kept cutting out 2 weeks ago, and I just had a phone call from a robot. I suppose these things happen. Currently drinking pumpkin spiced cold brew vegan coffee, but I think it's the vegan milk. Well, it's almond milk. I don't know how to describe it. Either way, it's here, it exists. I feel like it would taste better warmed up. I just realised I could do that. This month, I planned on writing a book for National Novel Writing Month. And the only person I told about this was Charlie, of Charlie Brook. And the reason I'm telling you about it is because I have spectacularly failed. I wasn't going to follow the whole system of writing 1,600 words a day and trying to complete a novel in 1 month. I just wanted to get back into the regularity of writing every single day, setting myself the goal of writing 1,000 words every day, and on my days in work, writing 500. That did not happen. I have written a grand total of 5,000 words this month. Nearly 3,000 of them are on a project that you know about, but not the project that I set out to write in November. It's because I'm constantly dealing with this conflict of what I think people would want to read next as opposed to and what I want to write next, and they don't always align. And it's also this expectation, I suppose, that this idea that people have an expectation as to what the next book should be. And I know that a lot of people at the moment have been saying to me the next book ought to be the next Alice Valentine book, because we're getting on for 3 years since the first book came out, and I know we had a lot in the middle there. Indeed, I'm still doing events for An Heir to Murder, so on Monday I went to Congleton Library and I was part of an author panel alongside Dave Bohlman, Mandy Byatt and Ruby Speechley. Indeed, I did bring up the hooded blankets and talk about how as a writer I tend to spend time being all slovenly, which isn't actually the complete truth. It just seems that recently, whenever I get the chance to speak to you, I tend to still be dressed like this. Like I've literally got out of bed, put on a hat and come in. We were discussing crime fiction and how we came to be writing crime. Both Ruby and Mandy are traditionally published, and both D.K. Bohlman and myself are indeed self-published. So I think we had some great discussion throughout the night. We had 40 to 50 people in the audience. I can't remember what it was at the final count. And the library staff, I'm still incredibly grateful for, because we were there till 9 and the event started at 6:30 and we were asked to get there for 5:30, so we were there a very long time indeed. In the end, I sold quite a few books, but there was one moment where a lady who's got a book coming out later this year, a memoir, asked what brought you the most joy and what was the most negative aspect of being a writer and going out and stuff. And as I said, for me, I get great joy out of being at events, and it's true. I get great joy out of sharing my work with people and having a receptive audience. But the converse to that is exactly the same thing. But the negative aspect is sometimes you'll go to events and people won't turn up, or people don't really care about what you're bringing to the table. I was very enthusiastic on Monday about my work, but I go into events like that and it makes me think, this is why the next Alice Valentine book needs to be out. As much as I would like to work on this standalone book I've got, and the charity shop book as well, that's not fled my mind by any means. There is no issue there when it comes to the charity shop book, for that is entirely planned. And the charity shop novel, I've been having this conversation all year, as you know, as to where should I go next. Working on the charity shop novel, then switching back and working on the next Alice Valentine, and then having this secret project in the pipeline as well that I revealed to Charlie when we did our interview. For me, the charity shop book and the next cozy crime novel have to come out around the same time, because they are based around the same time, and the charity shop novel is going to reveal something from the cozy crime world, and you're going to learn more about the history that went on in the town. But I also have to figure out a way to reveal that same information in the cozy crime novel and not have it read exactly the same. Although I suppose that in the cozy crime novel I could just do it all through newspaper reports. I don't know. But I am thinking I'm going to switch to the tea now. I start the day with a lot of beverages. I need a lot of caffeine before I come into this body. The last 2 months of the year, well, the back end of the year, the final quarter of every year usually ends up becoming quite full for me. And it's one of the reasons that I stopped doing Vlogmas last year, because I recognised that I could do the vlogs, but I didn't really have time to put in all the work as much as I enjoyed doing that in the years prior to that. And so it's because my writer friends, if they put out books, they'll be doing events. Even if they haven't put out books, they'll be doing events. This year, I have attended a few events that have been to raise money for charities. It's even my conversations with Una Signora haven't been happening because I just haven't had the time. We did manage to converse last night, and it actually went better than I imagined it would. I honestly got onto the phone again and I was like, I've not spoken Italian to another human being is so long, I don't think I know any words. And yet we managed to talk for an hour, although I didn't read from a book this time. We talked about what we've been up to that day, which for me was... I went Christmas shopping with my mother basically yesterday. After I went to Crewe with Charlie, we visited a coffee shop there. I was like, I need to bring my mum here. So I got home and I said to her, can you take a Tuesday off work in November and I'll take you there? Well, yesterday it was pouring it down with rain. It was really windy. So we chose not to go into Crewe. We stayed in Macclesfield. We went to Button Warehouse, which is where we usually go for poems and pints, but we haven't tended to visit during the day simply because we're both usually in work. I really can recommend their scones. That was the problem. You know, I have been off sugar for 4 years. 4 years I've been off sugar. And scones have been like, I replaced birthday cake with a scone. I really like a scone. And so when I saw them there, my mother had the same reaction as me. We can be the same people at times, the mother and I. But like, do you know what? We'll have a scone. So she had a scone, I had a scone. And that's another thing. 7 stone ago, I would have eaten this scone and been like, right, I can have a meal now. I couldn't. I was so full after one scone. I was like, do you know what? The Charlie from 7 stone ago. So I was impressed with myself, really. Because I managed to get through the day. I saw some gifts straight away and my mum went, I don't think such and such person would like them. I was like, oh, well, and she went, do you know what? You know them better than I do. I was like, I don't know about them. Either way, it was a very nice day. So we went to all around the nice homeware shops in Macclesfield. And I found some felt mice, and I really like a felt mouse. They remind me of Bagpuss, and I really like felt decorations on the tree. However, one shop they were very expensive, so I did buy them from TK Maxx. And I left a leopard on skis behind because he had a hole in his head, and I still feel bad because I don't know whether my mother wanted him, but I was just like, I've said this year they're only getting a small tree that I can put on the table. It's going to be about 4 foot tall at the most, 3 to 4 foot. So it's just going to have the felt decorations on and the vintage glass ones that I bought from my shop either last year or the year before. It's going to sit on the table. We're not having lights that you plug in. We're having battery powered lights. I'm keeping it very simple, very tabletop. They'll have to deal with it. Because they're not the buggers who are putting it up and taking it down, are they? They want the splendour of Christmas, but they don't want to do it. No, it always used to be my sister. Well, she moved in with a man, didn't she? Yes, I should be aware that at 28 she's allowed an adult relationship, and I should probably have one as well by now. But I chose books, she chose men. That sounds bad, because I collect books. My sister isn't collecting men, she has the one. Either way, we ended up going into Poynton to go to Waitrose, so I visited the shop to see if they'd done anything for Christmas, and then we came back to Sainsbury's. So we spent an entire day out yesterday. That was the majority of my Italian conversation. Allora, ho detto una signora che il negozio si compra panettone. I do not know. I don't think I said anything correct in that sentence, but I'm finding that as long as I have the words, usually the Italian lady, she can let me know that I might be saying them wrong. Or she can usually understand what I'm saying, even if l'ho capito. She can usually tell what I'm saying, even if it's all jumbled up, and we'll then go through and she'll tell me just where I went wrong, which I think you need in a conversation. We also discussed rice and how we preferred rice to pasta. We have some very similar thoughts, and it's just, I don't know, it's nice being able to have conversations that are seemingly about nothing but in another language, un'altra lingua. I just very much appreciate it, and I very much appreciate that she takes the time to chat with me. And so yeah, still got tons to buy. But what the mother and I have also said, because she gets weekends off and I'm off on Saturday, that we might do something incredibly drastic, something we never do, and go shopping at the weekend. Oof. We're even planning to go into the Treacle Market, which is my town's local monthly craft and local food fair type thing. I think every town has one, and that's happening on the final Sunday of the month. And I usually miss the entire year and just go for the Christmassy ones because that's the type of person that I am. We'll see, because last year I went up and it was so crowded that I came home. I'm no nearer finding out what I'm going to be writing next, am I? I have hopes that I'll get something finished within the next year. But that would, because that would make me on track then. I write and release a book every 2 years and have done since 2015, and we can say that that's something that's a little bit reliable about me. I mean, I could release a book next year if I got the poetry collection finished. I have so many projects. I still need to get some more events for Royally Doris as well, because at the moment I've only done the one, and that book came out in September. Of course, I did have to stop because she happened to be released on the same day the Queen died, which meant that nobody was wanting to book events. And the Button Warehouse, where I went yesterday and had the scone, I'd like to go there and do something. But they're currently booked up for a lot of next year, which is great for them. And I'm glad that they're being so successful in terms of events and what have you. That was a question I received on Monday, as it always is. Why? I've just realised you've probably heard the washing machine throughout this entire time. But one question I received on Monday was, why did I choose to independently publish my work? And we all know the story to do with Doris, but in terms of an heir to murder, the question is, well, why did I continue? And hearing the traditionally published authors talk about not necessarily being like the writer that their publishers want to push so much, they're having to do their own marketing. And I said at the time, I think marketing was at the moment all that a publisher could offer me, because, although people keep coming to me and saying they found errors in my books, and I'm like, I don't believe you, get your specs on. I did get people to edit these books for me. I didn't keep it all close to my chest and everything. I sent this out into the world and had so many people going over this book and pooling all of my resources, and I spent a lot of money on an heir to murder, as we know. The biggest reason now is simply because the plans that I have for Partridge Muse, I don't know that any publisher would want to take a risk on these tales. Whilst the cozy crime world is only loosely connected to Our Doris, there are things in one that are going to influence another, and I know Stephen King got away with it, but he's Stephen King. I have various plans for various books. Some books merge into others, so Royally Doris was originally going to be another book entirely, but there is a plot within Royally Doris where I removed that plot from another book I had planned, but there was still another plot within that book that I am now using in the Cozy Crime series. One day it might mean that there is more of a firm connection between the two pieces. Do you know, one day I'm going to have to actually come up with some other ideas, because currently my plan is to just do the 5 cozy crime novels, of which we've got 1, so there's 4 cozy crime novels to write, and get this arc out of the way. And then I don't know that the other books would have any sort of arc over them. It would just be individual cozy crime novels, which I think would work better, because I'm currently writing these books also having to remember which information I'm revealing about certain characters and certain events from the past within each book. That's something to look forward to. If I could get them all finished, I mean, that's the problem. 4 books is like 8 years work for me, and I don't want it to take 8 years. I really do need to knuckle down. I really, really do. That's like, if I just set a limit for myself of 60,000 words per book, which was, well, I think an estimate was 70,000. So do we go 70,000? Let's go 65,000 for good measure. So that's 130. That's 260,000 words, and I want to have that all written with great. It's doable. It is doable. You know, you write 1,000 words a day, you'd have 4 books finished in 8 months, wouldn't you? I think. I'm not very good at maths. I only got a D. I got a lot of D's at school, actually. Anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah, I was going to move on to Christmas films, but I've not got any sort of segue into that. Just that I found out there's a film starring Asa Butterfield, however you say his name, that is going to be set in Macclesfield. I think it comes out in a week on Amazon Prime. So, like, you've got that Hull site. I don't actually think much of it was filmed in Macclesfield. I think that they did get some shots of the town, because I kept seeing people with cameras going towards the town hall. Like, I don't understand why everybody today is taking photos of our town hall. There is nothing spectacular happening there. And I'm beginning to think that might have been used for an establishing shot. And I'm thinking that they went round doing a lot of establishing shots here, but I think that the majority was filmed in Pinewood Studios. That film is called Your Christmas or Mine. And part of it being funded by that Hell site is rather upsetting, but at the same time, hometown gets mentioned and stars a lot of my favourite northern actors and actresses, so we'll see. The mother wants to watch it anyway, and the sister wants to watch the new Tim Allen Santa Claus's TV show, so that's something to look forward to over the next few weeks. Anyway, I just realised that my plan to knuckle down and get some reading done of Dracula's The Undead and Nigel's latest Christmas Chronicles before anybody gets home has been completely thrown out the window because I felt like I needed to converse with you. Sally's still in bed. Now that I said her name, she might come downstairs, I don't know, but she's gone to bed. It was a tough day to be Sally, actually, on, was it Sunday? I think it was. So, on a Sunday, I don't go to the forest. I go to the towpath because I can't cope with all the crowds. And usually I go around 2 o'clock, and that means that the towpath doesn't have many people on it. Not that I don't like seeing people, but I just don't like the towpath getting crowded. I don't like crowds, that's all I can say. Let Sally off the lead on the towpath, and recently what's been happening is there's a bit of woodland. There's a wooded area. I keep calling it woodland, it's not. There's a wooded area. And recently Sally's been meeting some other dogs off lead, and they go herring off into the woods, and they run around, play for a bit, and then I carry on down the towpath. She'll come back to me, the other dog goes back to their owner, everything's fine. Otherwise, sometimes they just meet on the towpath and have a bit of a play and what have you. If you get good owners who understand their dogs are playing, sometimes you don't. But on Sunday, firstly, there was a person behind us who started coming really fast with their golden retriever. I was like, well, Sally doesn't move at this speed anyway, but she was calling her dog to her. Like, well, what's the problem here? Like, my dog's not doing anything wrong. Either way, I get the lead out to call Sally back to me, and they go off, and Sally goes back to sniffing flowers, whatever. We carry on walking. Now, 2 dogs who Sally would have loved to play with, their owners kept calling them back. I'm like, what is going on today? Because usually, if your dog's off lead and my dog's off lead, we just walk past each other and everything's fine. Are your dogs aggressive? What's going on? She goes a few paces down the towpath, stops, turns back to me and said, I'm sorry, there's been reports of a vicious Jack Russell on the reservoir chasing and attacking other dogs. And she said, but I've just realised it can't have been yours. Oh, the dog sniffing flowers, love? Probably not. And then we carried on. But it was just a case of no dog was allowed to play with Sally on Sunday because their owners had decided she was this vicious Jack Russell. Like, look at her. Look at it. I'm not saying she can't be vicious. I'm not one of those dog owners. She can be incredibly rude. My sister's border collie, who this dog has lived with, whenever she comes in, Sally's like, no, this is my house now. You're not allowed here. And she gets in a way that we have to tell her off, as all terriers do. She's also very vocal when she introduces herself to somebody, which some people understand is just some dogs' way. Terriers sometimes have it in them that they can be not territorial, that's not the word, but when they're introducing themselves and they get a bit excited, they can be a barker. If you're a person who understands dogs, you can cope with that. So when we go down the towpath, sometimes we meet dogs who are like that, and we say hello, and everything's fine, and we get on with each other. And the other owner's usually relieved that I'm able to understand that her dog's not being aggressive. It's just its way of introducing itself. I can cope with that. Sally can cope with that. But some owners, oh my goodness, it's like they've never, well, half of them have never had a dog before in their lives. They just purchased them during lockdown, and now they rule the whole flaming world. Like at Macclesfield last week, one woman I thought was the owner of this black Alsatian, and she wasn't, but she didn't even realise that the black Alsatian that wasn't hers, she had just set on her own dog for her behaviour. So black Alsatian went chasing after this Labradoodle, and then she had the gall to act as though it was the black Alsatian's owner's fault that her dog had been chased into the middle of the road. You set the Alsatian on your own dog. I watched it happen. I put my dog on a lead because I could see there was something wrong there. Either way, it doesn't mean anything. I'm just venting because I'm not acting like I'm the best dog owner in the world. I'm not. My brother's the one who makes the money from dog training. You know, he trains border collies for working on sheep and all that. That's what my brother does. My sister has trained dogs for agility and working on sheep as well. That's what they do. If Sally hadn't had another owner for 11 months before she came here, she probably wouldn't be as well trained as she is. I'm not denying that I have done some work there, such as when we're on the towpath and when the cyclists are going past to step to the side. I'm not saying that there hasn't been training there with recall and all of that stuff, but for the most part, I'm glad that she was taught some of the basics before she came to me, because I would have had to get my sister involved with that. Still, other dog owners annoy me. Not all of them. Not all of them. The ones who've had dogs before, the ones who've had dogs since youth, the ones who've actually put in the work to train them and recognise what dogs' behaviour is like and the reason dogs behave in certain types of ways. Those dog owners I can cope with. It's the other ones who only purchase the dog for Instagram photos. Those are the ones I cannot be doing with. And that's where I'm going to end things, because I think ending things on a rant is probably the best way to go about things. You can tell, can't you? This video was a great way of showing the benefits of caffeine for Charlie, where he slowly wakes up, and the more caffeine he gets in him, the more he rambles and talks. Didn't even need to say talks there, but I did it. Either way, I actually need to get some reading done, but I also need to write something for the Poems, Prose and Pints at the Button Warehouse in 3 weeks. 3 weeks today, I will be at the Button Warehouse, and I will be reading something festive. And yes, I did share the flyer to Instagram yesterday with the caption "Seasonal smut and festive filth from the all-star Bavarian knee tremblers." And if you know what that's from, then we can be friends. And if you don't, then you need to go and watch Dinner Ladies, specifically the Christmas episodes of Series 2. Because, yes, we are back into treating Fog, Christmas, and I can't remember what See, I never look at the titles. I just know it starts at Fog. I watch 3 episodes and I treat it like a Christmas special for those 3 episodes. Oh, there's some brilliant storytelling in Dinner Ladies. Whenever I watch it, I come up with more theories about... My mother can't stand it. I'll be sat there and I'll be coming up with things. She's like, can we just watch it, please? I'm like, no. No, as a writer, I have to not tear it apart, but I have to deconstruct all of my favourite things about this very unctuous television show. And then I have to get mad at all of these youngsters because they don't seem to recognise anything about subtlety, and it annoys me. Anyway, now that I've ranted and raved for over half an hour, I'm gonna go. So what are you reading? What are you writing? What are you watching? What are you listening to? We welcome all recommendations over here. I hope that you have got something out of this video. Besides sheer boredom, actually, I hope I didn't bore you too much, because until next time, that is all.